There was this guy called Daniel who just wanted to write. Not any kind of writing, but stories that could touch hearts, make people think, and inspire them to be better. He dreamt of being a writer whose words could travel across the globe, touching the lives of countless individuals. However, here's the thing about Daniel. He was just an ordinary young man. He didn't come from a family of famous authors, or have some magical talent. He was just someone who loved reading, and had a burning desire to express himself through writing. And yet every day he would sit down at his desk with this grand vision in mind, and he would just stare at the blank document on his computer screen wondering where to begin. Hours would pass by and he still wouldn't have anything concrete. Some days the only thing he would end up with was a half-written sentence that seemed like a monumental task to finish. It got to the point where he would dread those moments when his parents would ask him, "So, Daniel, what are you working on these days?" He would always reply with a forced smile, "Oh, just some stuff, nothing important." The weight of his dreams felt like a heavy burden that only he could see, and it made him feel isolated and overwhelmed. You see, while Daniel poured his heart out into his stories, nobody really understood what he was going through. His friends thought he should focus on something more practical. "Writing won't pay the bills," they said. "Get a real job," they suggested. His family didn't understand either. They thought he was wasting his time. They wished he would take his passion for writing and channel it into something more tangible. They couldn't see the passion burning inside of him, the dedication he poured into every word he wrote. All they saw was an unemployed young man wasting away in his room. And slowly, Daniel began to believe them. He started to question his own abilities. Maybe he wasn't cut out for this. Maybe his dreams were just that, dreams not meant to be fulfilled. So he took a part-time job at a local store and tried to push his writing to the back of his mind. But something inside him was still yearning for more. Then one rainy evening, while walking home from the store, he wandered into a small bookstore that he had never noticed before. The bell above the door chimed softly as he stepped inside. It was a cozy place filled with the smell of old books and the quiet murmurs of other customers. He browsed the shelves, running his fingers over the spines of the books. Suddenly, he noticed an old leather-bound notebook tucked away on a high shelf. As he pulled it down, the light from the overhead lamp glinted off the embossed lettering on the cover. Curious, he opened it. The first page held a quote that stopped him in his tracks. "Small steps every day lead to mountains climbed." In that moment, something shifted within him. He realized that he had been trying to climb the mountain of his dreams without taking any steps. He had been paralyzed by the magnitude of his goal, the fear of failing, and the voices of doubt that echoed in his ears. But this simple quote, "Small steps every day lead to mountains climbed," became his guiding light. He decided then and there to try something different. Instead of forcing himself to write a whole story in one sitting, he committed to writing just one paragraph a day. He knew that even one paragraph wasn't a chapter, let alone a book. But he hoped that by writing something, anything, every single day, he would move forward, however slowly. It was a small step, but it was a start. At first it felt pointless. One paragraph daily didn't seem like it would get him anywhere. Some days he struggled to come up with anything worthwhile. He would stare at the blinking cursor on the screen for what felt like hours, unsure where to begin. On those days, he would write about anything that crossed his mind. A walk in the park, a conversation overheard, a memory from childhood. Anything to get the words flowing again. Often these paragraphs were messy, imperfect, and full of flaws. There were times when Daniel wanted to give up. When he read back what he had written and saw the shortcomings, he would doubt his abilities. "Is this all I can do?" he would wonder, feeling disheartened. But then he remembered the words from the notebook. "Small steps every day lead to mountains climbed." He realized that consistency, not perfection, was the key. So he kept going. Day after day, he wrote one paragraph, then another, and slowly, something remarkable began to happen. The paragraphs he wrote weren't masterpieces, but they were his. They reflected his unique voice, his experiences, and his perspective on the world. He started to find patterns emerging in his writing. Ideas that once seemed random began to connect. Characters he had created in one paragraph would reappear in others, their stories unfolding like chapters in a book. He wasn't just writing, he was creating. One evening, he decided to read through all the paragraphs he had written so far. To his surprise, what had started as small, hesitant efforts had become a story with a beginning, middle, and an ending. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. It was his. And for the first time, Daniel felt proud of his work. Encouraged, he submitted his story to a local magazine. He didn't expect it to be accepted, but he hoped for a chance, a small opening that would allow his words to be seen. The first rejection came, and with it, a wave of disappointment. But Daniel knew that the path to success was rarely smooth. He had heard stories of famous authors facing countless rejections before finding fame. So he adapted, revised his work, and submitted it again. The second rejection arrived, and then the third, and then the fourth. Each rejection was like a stone dropped into the still water of his confidence, creating ripples of Yet with each setback, Daniel learned. He listened to the feedback, made adjustments, and wrote some more. Each time he submitted his work, he made sure it was better than before. Years went by, and during that time, Daniel didn't stop writing. He kept at it, day in and day out. His dedication didn't waver. He believed in his story, in his ability to touch readers with his words. Finally, one day, a letter arrived that changed everything. A publishing house had accepted his story, and soon his book was in the hands of readers all around the country. Looking back at his journey, Daniel realized that the secret behind his success was simple, consistent effort. It wasn't about writing one perfect story right away. It was about writing every day, even when no one was watching, even when it seemed pointless, even when he didn't feel motivated. He had taken the small steps, those tiny actions that added up to big results. The boy who once dreamed of being a writer and could find the courage to put pen to paper had accomplished his dream. The young man who had faced discouragement and self-doubt had proven to himself and others that with persistence and patience, anything was possible. Now, when Daniel spoke to young aspiring writers, he would always mention the quote from the old notebook, "Small steps every day lead to mountains climbed." He told them about his journey, the challenges he had overcome, and the importance of staying true to your dreams. His story became an inspiration to many, a reminder that it's not about how fast you go, but about keeping the momentum going. Mountains might seem daunting, but with consistent effort, they can be conquered one step at a time. And what about you? Do you have a dream that you've been putting off? Are you waiting for the perfect moment to start? Remember the story of Daniel and the power of small steps. It's not about the size of the step, but about the consistency of it. Small steps every day lead to mountains climbed. So start today. Take that first step, then another, and then another. Trust the process and believe in yourself. Who knows where your journey might lead you? It might take time, but with consistent effort, you can reach the top of your mountain. Keep going, stay dedicated, and don't forget to celebrate the small victories along the way. That's where the real joy of the journey lies.